Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. This is probably the last time you'll see me with this. I'm starting to gross myself out, so I'm probably gonna get rid of it. Anyways, I just came back from France just a few days ago, and every time you go somewhere with your, okay, there's two states of mind with photography gear stuff, at least for me. It's the I'm at home and I'm working and I'm busy with my kids. I like watching YouTube videos and like searching B&H photo and come up with all these crazy ideas of what you think you need. And then there's like the side where if you just go actually use your gear, like what a novel concept, that you realize it's like a lot of it's up here. It's stupid, right? And so this happened to me again. And so I like to share two things that I learned while I was in France this last week. Now, to be clear, France was not a vacation necessarily. It was a work trip, but the work trip was kind of structured in a way that it was meant to be a lot of fun, kind of a boondoggle, if you will. And not so much like crazy hard work all the time. But it was over there. I was over there for 4 days. I landed in Paris, but then we took a bus 2 hours into like the countryside in like this random like business part. But it was the weirdest thing. There was like random animals walking around and stuff. Anyways, here's a couple pictures from that, and I'll come back and tell you the two things that I learned. Here's some pictures.
I give in to the lesser fight. My body aches to be satisfied. My weakness comes and goes. My weakness comes and goes. I'm reaching out for the easy high. Please fortify this strength of mine. My weakness comes and goes. My weakness comes and goes.
All right, so before I tell you the two things that I learned, I want to tell you kind of the cameras I brought, or camera I brought, and why I brought them. Now, I'm recording you on the OM5. Talk about that in a second. You guys know I have the OM1, which is right here, okay? In terms of lenses for Micro Four Thirds, I've got a bunch. I got the 12 to 40 zoom lens. I got that 14 to 150 super zoom that came with the OM5. I've got the 20 millimeter 1.4, the 30 millimeter macro, the 45 1.8, the 75 1.8, and that's pretty much it. But I also recently picked up again this Nikon D780. I just have a thing for DSLRs. I like them a lot. Something about the older lenses. I don't know. Ergonomics are better. The build's better. All that stuff. And I was going to take the OM1 with me in the 12 to 40 and keep it simple. I was thinking rationally for a second. But as I sat there, it happened again. It happens all the time. It's why I always move away from Micro Four Thirds or even Fuji. It's the full frame FOMO. And what got me was this. Let me show you, for example. Here is the OM1 with the 20 millimeter 1.4. Keep in mind the 12 to 40 is bigger. It's recording me though, so I can't show you. And here's the Nikon with the 50 millimeter 1.8 old like D lens. Keep in mind that the 28 millimeter 2.8 lens that I also have is the same size. Just look at this. Guys, you see this? They're like the same size. I know I have the flash on top, just ignore that. But they're like the same size, and they're not really that different in weight. The body's bulkier on the D780, but like, this is minimal. This has always been something for me that's caused me to sell Micro Four Thirds in the past, because I'm like, why would I put up with the smaller sensor and all the issues it has when I can get something of similar size in a bigger sensor? Now I know that the OM1 is more computational stuff and blah, 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 but like, that's the thought process I've had. You can apply it to a Sony camera or a Canon camera, it doesn't matter. But my point was, I looked at these and I was just sitting on my bed as I'm packing, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take the D780 because full frame. I want full frame. And I took the 28 f2.8 and the 51.8, and I said, perfect. That's what I'm going to take. And you know what, guys? It wasn't terrible, but it was a mistake. Because here's the two things that I learned. Number one, simplicity is king. You might think you need that 1.4 lens and then the long telephoto lens and all that. You don't, especially on a trip like this. For some touristy type things, the best lens you can probably have is a lens that's versatile. And so something like the 12 to 40 f2.8 would probably have been the better choice because it's 24 to 80 equivalent and it's an f2.8 aperture. Not 1.4, the depth of field wouldn't be there like a 1.4 lens, But the stabilization on these OM Systems cameras, Olympus cameras, is so good that like you can handheld, a shot for maybe a second or half second longer than you would on something like a D780 because it doesn't have stabilization in the lens or the body, at least this lens and body. So that was realization number one. Simplicity is king. The 12 to 40 would have been the one lens setup that I need to be one and done. Would I have the bokeh that a 1.4 lens has? No, certainly not a 1.8 full frame lens either. But I don't think that was as important. And that's kind of the realization I'm saying. Number two, the second thing is wider is far more beneficial than tighter for something like that. In Europe, in France, in major cities, in the US like New York or Chicago, whatever, you're trying to get the scale of things and things are on top of each other. And so having that 24 millimeter or 28 millimeter equivalent, was what I had, was far more important than the 50. I quickly found out that I can tell a better story with 28 millimeters than I could with 50 millimeters. And so I used that a lot more. And so, in that respect, I would say a lens that you might want to take with you if you're going to be doing some kind of travel, make sure it has that wide field of view, and then if you can get fast as well. If you're Micro Four Thirds, even though it's a big lens, the Panasonic Lumix Leica, whatever it is, 10 to 25, I think that's what it is, 1.7, that's a good lens. This 12 to 40, f2.8, Lumix has a 12 to 35, f2.8. Like that's a good one lens that has wide, still a decent aperture, and if you can tighten it down to 40, which would be 80 millimeters or 70 millimeters, whatever you want to do, that's the way to go. Because the other thing that was a pain in the butt is that even though this setup was about the same, I was still carrying two lenses in my pocket. And so I had the 50 on the camera and 28 in my pocket, or vice versa. Like that just becomes cumbersome too. And I think that's the benefit of a zoom lens. Maybe that's a third thing I learned, is that for travel, generic travel stuff like that, that's the way to go. And so I would say, plan on using your 12 to 40 or your zoom 24 to 70 or whatever that nut lens is 95% of the time. And then maybe like just bring this in the bag, a 1.4 lens. This is a 20 millimeter 1.4 on this camera. Just bring those maybe if like you get the wild hair to like shoot something with a shallower depth of field or it's lower light or whatever. But with AI and like noise reduction and stabilization, these cameras, you probably can do a lot more with just a 2.8 zoom lens than having to switch primes and stuff like that all the time. Unless, of course, you want to just stick to one focal length and challenge yourself that way, which I do a lot as well. But I quickly realized that wider field of view was far more important to me. So the 2 or 3 learnings is that wide field of view, like probably more critical than the tighter field of view. If you're going to like on trips that are in cities or churches or whatever, you're going to want that wide perspective. And the second one is that a good zoom lens is probably worth its weight in gold as opposed to a bag of primes, which is burning my soul to say because I'm a prime guy, all about those primes. But I got to tell you, on travel, it's more beneficial for sure. Nobody wants to be schlepping around like 5 pounds of gear. It sucks. Throw a camera over your shoulder, one decent zoom lens that has good range, and let it rip. If I say one other contestant or candidate for a good zoom lens for Micro Four Thirds, a 12 to 100, yeah, it's f4. That kind of sucks. But that lens, I mean, 24 to 200, and it's extremely sharp, great lens. So I would say that's a really good lens. I know Nikon also for their Z system has a 24 to 200, so maybe that works as well. But that's the kind of lens I think you should bring, and then if you want, bring an extra prime in case you want that low light. Okay, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed a few of the pictures. I'll be honest with you, I feel like the Olympus would have had sharper images. I would have had an easier time composing, all the things. There are challenges for sure with this. I think I'm migrating towards staying with this bad boy as opposed to it's keeping the 2 Olympus cameras as opposed to the full frame DSLR. And I'll just get like really fast lenses to shoot portraits on if I have to, because shallowed up the field. That's, all good portraits are shot at 1.2, right? No, studio work shot like f8, okay? I'm joking. All right, that's it, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Appreciate it. See you in the next video.